Hello and welcome to the news on Zodiak, read by Joab Frank Chakaza. Here are the headlines. Majority of political parties miss deadline to register under the new Political Parties Act. National Planning Commission challenges intellectuals to help transform the country under Malawi 2063 vision using their research papers. Maula prison officials desperate for COVID-19 response to contain the spread of the virus. Across the borders, Mozambique bans artists from using police uniforms. Now the news in detail. Zodiak has established that only 6 political parties have submitted set requirements by Registrar of Political Parties to be registered as per the new Political Parties Act. In January this year, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties directed that all parties should meet the requirements by, among others, amassing 100 signatures from each of the 28 districts by July 16, failing which they would be deregistered. Registrar of Political Parties Chikumbuso Namelo says the office is still verifying submissions made so far. Details in this report by Alinafe Mlamba.
Political parties had until July 16 this year to comply with the new Political Parties Act to register their parties. The 16 July deadline was an extension from an earlier deadline of June 30, which was revised after political parties had sought for the extension. Among the requirements, political parties were to collect 100 signatures from each district, or failing which risk being deregistered. According to information we have, only 6 political parties so far met this requirement, and they will be issued a certificate. Registrar of Political Parties Chikumbuso Namelo confirmed about the review process of the party registration submissions, but is not disclosing the number of political parties that have complied with the law.
We are verifying their submissions to check for compliance with the Act. If there's information that is missing, there's going to be an interaction now between ourselves as an office and the political parties so that they can comply.
Executive Director for the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, Kizito Tentani, is however calling for thorough review of the submissions.
Because the question really is not about the numbers of political parties, but what they are doing on the ground.
A good number of other political parties have missed the July 16 deadline, and according to the information we have, the Malawi Congress Party, UTM, Democratic Progressive Party, People's Party, AFOD, United Democratic Front are the only 6 parties which have completed their submissions and escaped the deregistration process.
The National Planning Commission has challenged intellectuals in the country to turn findings in their research into realities that will transform the country into a middle-income economy, the first 10 years of implementation of Malawi 2063 Development Blueprint. The Commission's Director General, Dr. Thomas Muntali, said time has come for utilization of research findings to develop the nation. He said this in Mulanje when opening a 3-day Biodiversity for Malawi 2063 Joint Research Dissemination Conference. Hastings Jimani reports from Mulanje.
Intellectuals from different universities in Malawi are meeting in Mulanje to bang heads on how they can translate researches on biodiversity into tangible development. Speaking when opening the meeting, dubbed Biodiversity for Malawi 2063 Joint Research Dissemination Conference, Director General of the National Planning Commission, Dr. Thomas Muntali, said time has come to utilize the research findings and recommendations for the country's progress.
In the first 10-year implementation plan, the 2 key milestones are to graduate this country into a middle-income economy by 2030. So the biodiversity aspect is pretty key. When they are disseminating these papers, one of the outcomes that some of us would want to see, especially as the National Planning Commission, is how do we help using the research that is coming out to make sure that it helps us to graduate to a middle-income economy as defined in the first 10-year implementation plan.
Principal of Kamuzu University of Health Sciences, Professor Macpherson Malewa, said his institution is breaking ground towards production of medical drugs from natural resources such as trees.
We could use the natural products that Malawi has, including trees, to produce drugs that can be used in the treatment of various conditions in patients in Malawi. In the long run, we'll be able to create wealth, but also be self-reliant in terms of health services.
On her part, Vice Chancellor of Malawi University of Science and Technology, Professor Adres Malata, said MUST is equally making strides towards national development.
We have mechanisms to protect what the students are doing. At the same time, we also want to make sure that whatever they have done should be commercialized. We also have even partners, private sector in Malawi, that are interested in pushing the work in research and technology.
The conference has been organized by MUST in conjunction with Malawi University of Business and Applied Science, MUBAS, Kamuzu University of Health Sciences, KUHES, University of Pretoria, and other partners. For Zodiak in Mulanje, this is Hastings Jimani reporting.
The government of the United Kingdom has launched a consultation on new trading rules that it believes will help British businesses and consumers and also bail countries out of poverty. The proposed new UK developing countries trading scheme, coming after Britain exited the European Union, is said to aim at growing trade with low-income nations, supporting jobs and growth across the world. British High Commissioner to Malawi, David Beer, says the proposed scheme will enable countries like Malawi to access the UK market more easily and grow their bilateral trade. A decade after the 20 July protests, which claimed 20 lives, church and society and the bereaved families have made a fresh call to government to offer material support to affected families and those that were left with disabilities. Moses Mkandawire of Church and Society and a representative of the bereaved families, Mercy Mbezuma, have both said though the families were compensated, some lost their breadwinners and are finding it hard to make ends meet. Minister of Civic Education Timothy Ntambo, who was present at the 20 July memorial prayers in Mzuzu, says government is aware of the challenges and is working on creating structures to help the families. Dawera Kumwenda has more.
For a decade now, families of July 20 victims have been holding commemorations at Zolzol Cemetery in Mzuzu, where 8 of the 11 people killed were buried in the city. This year's remembrance started with a prayer sermon with a reading from the book of Jeremiah 31, verse 15 to 17, and Reverend Ronald Mulindakaya Piri that centered on reminding Malawians where the country is coming from. Representative of the bereaved families, Mese Mbezuma Mfune, says despite being compensated, the families would like to meet President Lazarus Chakwera to tell him their challenges, since some were left with various disabilities. Executive Director for Church and Society, Moses Mkandawire, noted that since organizations and individuals have been helping the families, it is now up to government to take responsibility of helping them.
As civil society institutions, we don't have the resources, but we've been there to help the communities. But the question is sustainability of the program. And that's why we've been calling upon government to come in, and help the communities. Unfortunately, the government has not done much.
Minister of Civic Education and National Unity, Timothy Ntambo, acknowledged the challenges the families are facing, saying government will introduce a special program that will focus on them.
Being in government, there are procedures that are followed. And the last time we met, we had just come into government. And after balancing and understanding the enormous work that is involved, we realized that we need to have a comprehensive and holistic approach to the issues.
Former Vice President Kumbo Gajali has since asked the council to get funds to renovate where the 8 are buried. On July 20, 2011, Malawians organized protests against perceived poor economic management by the late President Bingwa Mutharika. Police were ordered to shoot, and this left 20 people dead. For Zodiak in Mzuzu, I'm Dawera Kumwenda.
Now in Lilongwe, 18 rape victims from Nsundwe, Mbwadali and Mpingu have finally been compensated 121.5 million kwacha as ordered by the High Court earlier this year. The court had ordered the Malawi Police Service to compensate the women as some of its officers were implicated in the sexual abuse. Legal representative of the Women Lawyers Association, says what remains now is speedy process for the officers involved to face the law. We have a report by Blessings Kamwembe.
In March this year, the High Court ordered the Malawi Police Service to pay the rape survivors a total of 121.5 million kwacha in compensation. High Court Assistant Registrar Madalito Koswej Mwaza ordered that the survivors be compensated within 90 days. 3 months after the pronouncement of the ruling, the rape survivors can now afford a smile as the police have finally compensated them. In a statement issued yesterday by legal representative for the Survivors Women Lawyers Association, President for the body, Immaculate Maluza, says the ruling and the subsequent payment of compensation solidifies the fact that violence against women is not acceptable, excusable, and tolerable in the country. The statement implores on government to make available sufficient, effective, and sustainable resources to reduce and eliminate gender-based violence across Malawi. Meanwhile, the statement says what remains now is progression of the criminal aspect of the case for the officers involved to face the law. The 18 women are said to have been sexually assaulted in October 2019 by police officers that were deployed to quell political tension at Msundwe, Mbwatalika, and Mpingu in Lilongwe.
The Anti-Corruption Bureau, ACB, has shifted dates when to start questioning former President Peter Mutharika over alleged abuse of his taxpayer identification number, TPIN. In a statement released this morning, signed by the Bureau's Principal Public Relations Officer, Grita Ndala, it states that the dates have been shifted from today, from July 20th to Tuesday, July 27th. The ACB, however, has kept a tight lead on reasons why it has shifted the dates. The interview, according to the Bureau, will be conducted virtually as one of the ways of observing COVID-19 preventive measures. You're watching the news here on Zodiac. We've got more. Please do stick around.
We all start differently, but we can all start with the strongest protection. Because some start early, others start late. Some from little homes, others from big ones. Some start together, or all on their own.
It doesn't matter how you start, as long as you start strong. With new Colgate's Maximum Cavity Protection. Now with fluoride plus arginine for 4 times more strengthening power. So that you can give them the strongest start to their day. Colgate. Start strong, stay strong.
Malawi, Malawi, masompenya amalawi watoto kula Malawi 2063 ufika 2063 kale wokomera aliyense achinyamata tikwirane manja kula Malawi achinyamata tikale patsogolo kula Malawi 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 wozimira paeka Malawi Malawi wokomera aliyense Malawi 2063 kusinda dziko lathu mokomera aliyense.
Munthu mmodzi payekha sangamange mudzi, koma anthu angapo kubwera pamodzi timati uwu nde mudzi. Pamodzi tili ndi kuthekera kobweretsa chitukuko mdera lathu. Network yathu ya Chimalawi ya TNM yakhala ikuthandiza madera ambiri mu njira zosiyanasiyana. Komano pano TNM ikufuna kupitiriza ntchitoyi mogwirizana ndi ife eni ake amudzi. Ndi nkani yabweretsa TNM mudzi wathu. Mukagwiritsa ntchito TNM poimba foni, kutumiza ma SMS, kugwiritsa ntchito internet, kapena kugwiritsa ntchito mpamba, chaka chilichonse TNM idzipereka 1% kapena 1 kwacha pa 100 kwacha iliyonse ya ndalama zomwe yapanga kuti ithandizire pa chitukuko chomwe anthu akufuna mdera lawo. Tikabwera pamodzi ndi kugwirizana chimodzi, tikhonza kupanga zazikulu mmudzi wathu. TNM mudzi wathu. Umodzi unamanga mtolo. Ndondomeko zidzatsatidwa.
Welcome back. A look at the headlines as we continue with the news. Majority of political parties miss deadline to register under the new Political Parties Act. National Planning Commission challenges intellectuals to help transform the country under Malawi 2063 vision using their research papers. Maula prison officials desperate for COVID-19 response to contain the spread of the virus. Across the borders, Mozambique bans artists from using police uniforms. Now, moving on with the news. Maula Prison in Lilongwe has appealed for assistance from well-wishers to cater for 106 inmates, 5 staff members and relations that have tested positive to COVID-19. Clinical officer for the isolation section at the Reformatory Center, Inspector Edward Nyirenda, says with a population of more than 2,000 inmates, more support is required to contain the spread of the virus. A visit to the facility has revealed that the inmates do not have masks. We have this report filed by Western Guta.
Last year, Maula Prison transferred to other prisons in the central region female inmates to accommodate those that tested positive to COVID-19, and now the facility is holding 106 positive inmates. According to the only clinician at the prison's isolation section, Inspector Edward Nyirenda, the prison needs enough assistance, including the disinfectants, masks and sanitizers, so that all the inmates are safe. He said that so far, 5 officers are in isolation with some of their members of the family, signifying how unsafe inmates can be if there is inadequate or no materials.
We need much numbers of masks, face masks, even sanitizers, and even the nutrition food, because those people who are in the isolation cells, they are looking forward to have well-balanced diet food. And even the more disinfectant, because these disinfectant have been given to us, I understand they'll be there for 3 months. They will help us to cater for 3 months, but we don't know when this pandemic will be.
Executive Director of Pamuzi Health Support Network, Linda Kembo Nwosu, concurred with Nyirenda that every day the prison receives people that have been sentenced, hence the need to assist.
People that are in prison, they are not the people that can get it easily because they are already isolated. But the people that have just coming from police stations, that's the people that they are very dangerous because they are coming from outside. So we thought of giving this disinfectant because we know that they don't have a say, but we need to give them so that they can protect themselves.
When we visited Maula Prison, we found that the inmates did not even have masks on and had 106 COVID-19 positive inmates out of 7,146 cases in the country. Reporting for Zodiak, this is Western Guta.
Meanwhile, health expert and health rights activist have advised the Education Ministry to monitor schools with strictness of COVID-19 preventive measures compliance to avoid mass closure of schools. Professor Maureen Chirwa and George Jobe fear continued non-compliance could expose more teachers and learners to a COVID-19 pandemic. The call comes amid reports that a school in Rumpi, Chikwawa Primary School, was closed after 7 out of 10 teachers tested positive for COVID-19. Alfred Guda reports.
A health expert, Professor Maureen Chirwa, has described the current situation as tricky. Professor Chirwa says government should monitor the situation in the schools where COVID-19 cases have been reported. She said proper management of cases is critical in preventing more of such cases in schools.
It is a very tricky situation because you remember schools closed earlier and the results have not been very good. The effects of that closure of schools has not been very good. But again, from the past experience was that transmission among young people, especially in primary schools, was not as straight as it were.
A health rights activist, George Jobe, shares Professor Chirwa's sentiments. Jobe, however, decried continued relaxation on COVID-19 preventive measures compliance.
The issue of compliance has always been a challenge. We have had beautiful regulations ever since we started experiencing COVID-19. It is just recent that 19th, 2021, we heard that the police would start enforcing a special use of faces. But despite that, we have not seen much compliance.
A school in Rumpi, Chikwawa Primary School, was reportedly closed after 7 out of 10 teachers tested positive for COVID-19. Meanwhile, Sanje Secondary School head teacher Overton Chuguni has confirmed a Form 3 boarding student has also tested positive. Cases of COVID-19 have been on the rise in the country, with the positivity rate hovering around 26%. For Zodiak in the Lower Shire district of Nsanje, this is Alfred Guda reporting.
Now let's stay on COVID-19. Parliament has come under fire for holding a 3-week physical training amid a surge in cases of COVID-19 pandemic. This is the third cohort of 40 members of Parliament who have gathered in Lilongwe from Monday to be drilled on how they can effectively discharge their duties in the August House. However, a health rights activist, Maziko Matemba, fears if this goes unchecked, the citizenry will not take the COVID-19 preventive measures seriously. Anafe Mlamba has filed this report.
Parliament has made what some believe could be an absurd decision, holding a physical training for 40 legislators that will take up to 3 weeks. This training, according to information that I've gathered so far, will build the capacity of the members of Parliament on development. But the training and the mode of the training Parliament has opted for is what is being fought. Health rights activist Maziko Mademba described the conduct by the MPs as hypocrisy of the highest order, saying going for virtue could have been the right thing to do.
Parliament needs also to show championing the COVID-19 response, more especially looking at the upsurge of the cases. There are other options at the moment which they can use. Virtual or conferencing or virtual training is also important. We know that we cannot be waiting for COVID-19 forever, but I think they have to blend it into face-to-face, but more especially the major part of it should be virtual.
Nevertheless, Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Mandalitoka Zombo, is backing the decision, saying with the nature of the training, there is no way it could have been held online.
If you have seen the setting and the measures that have been put in place, the idea was there to do it virtually, but the training is so comprehensive, the compact. That's why one of the speakers did say, in the past it was called a bachelor's degree, because of the nature or the content of the program. So what I've done is to make sure that we adhere to the measures that have been put in place by the Ministry of Health. So don't worry about that. The issue is, are we following the measures? But we will adhere to the measures.
Malawi Institute of Management Acting Executive Director Samson Sikelo says the institution will follow all COVID-19 preventive measures while hosting the lawmakers.
What we have done is that we have enhanced the preventive measures on COVID-19, as you have seen from the gate and on our key points that we have put in place sanitary.
The National Assembly has not been spared by the pandemic. This year alone, at least 5 lawmakers have succumbed to COVID-19, while several others were also affected.
Now, across the borders, Mozambique's police boss Bernardino Rafael has issued a decree prohibiting civilians from wearing police uniform, including in art performances. He said it had been used in ways that don't give a good image of the force, but artists say the decision is dictatorial. Theatre actor Aronika Pajer, commonly known as Commandant Fiasca, has been wearing police uniform in his recent shows and says the decree doesn't make sense and performers will not sit back. The authorities say the decree is a matter of defending sovereignty. Lawyer Osvanildo Mate says using police uniforms in artistic representations isn't a crime, and that the police boss has no authority to issue such a decree against artists who don't work in the police force. And that's about what we had time for in this news edition. Before we go, let's look at the headlines one more time. Majority of political parties miss deadline to register under the new Political Parties Act. National Planning Commission challenges intellectuals to help transform the country under Malawi 2063 vision using their research papers. Maula prison officials desperate for COVID-19 response to contain the spread of the virus. Across the borders, Mozambique bans artists from using police uniforms. Visit our website zodiacmalawi.com for more news. My name is Joe Frank Jakaza. Thanks for watching.